These scenes are of a harvest on the Norman Pier Farm, 1/2 mile southeast of Renwick, Iowa, probably in the fall of 1948. This is Bob McGowan. His wife Lil was Norman's and also my mom's aunt. They ran a grocery store in Renwick.
He is showing how tall the corn is and how big and full the ears are. To me it looks like he is showing that this crop was special. I mentioned this to my friend and he said it sounds like the transition to hybrid corn seeds. After he said this, I noticed the seed company's sign was visible for a couple seconds. I blocked the sign out, but it suggests my friend is right. The brand also suggests hybrid seeds in the late 1930s or later.
In March 2010, when my mom asked Joe Lane, a retired farmer in Renwick, if he remembered when hybrid seed was first introduced, he immediately answered 1937, and it was dramatic, even though he was a boy at the time. Online articles say Iowa went from 30% hybrid in 1935 to 90% in 1939, and it helped end the Depression and Dust Bowl era drought effects in the region. I have updated the date and rearranged these scenes from an earlier DVD and YouTube upload, now that I realize I had them in the wrong chronological order. The scene on the film just after this was likely to be about February 1949, based on the ages of the children in it. The person driving the tractor is Norman Pier.
Since this clip also focuses so much on the mounted two-row corn picker, it also seems to be special. Online articles say they also were introduced in the mid to late 1930s and became popular not only for speed, but also because hybrid corn was more rigid and better suited to mechanical pickers.
These scenes have a sense of an advertising video to show how well this particular hybrid seed worked, and also how well suited it was to mechanical picking. But I don't know if Norman ever was the local representative for the seed company, and thus would have wanted this film to help him sell more seed. Please comment if you know, or if you have any other thoughts on why this film was made. But it does seem like they had fun with it. Norman is smiling, and Uncle Bob, who was 55 at the time, must have been holding on to the back of the tractor at one point, and then playing chicken out in front of it in another.
Norman Pier was the smartest boy in his high school class and still told stories 75 years later about building a kit radio as a boy. But college wasn't an option for many in 1933, and he started work on the farm.
Norman and his wife Irene moved to and took over operation of this farm in 1946. It had been homesteaded by his great-grandfather John F. Tank. They continued to live on it for about 50 more years. It was planned for Norman to take over the farm and move into the house, as his Uncle Calla and Aunt Dorothy had already purchased a home in Renwick, just 2 doors down from his sister Norma, and 3 from his sister Lil, and a half block from his mom. But in October 1945, 1 month before the planned move, Calla Tank was tragically killed when he was working around the big ditch on the farm, when the tractor overturned and ended up on top of him. Norman still remembered, almost 60 years later, that he'd asked Uncle Calla to wait until he could drive over from Hardy to help him. Thanks to my original upload at youtube.com, this person has been identified by his son-in-law and grandson as Fritz or Fred Gugisburg, who lived across Highway 17 from the piers. They said he helped Norman out at harvest. They recognized Fred's tractor as an Oliver that he owned. They said it looked like the Oliver 70, introduced in 1937 and sold into the 1940s.
I apologize for my city boy attempt to document farm history, encourage feedback that will help correct any mistakes, and to more accurately date these scenes.